Some land looks barren from the outside, but buried beneath it are things powerful enough to turn human beings into monsters. Because when fortune is hidden underground, the people standing above it slowly stop being human. Welcome to HOPKART Paru, where the most dangerous thing in this world isn't poverty, it's human greed. The story opens with the idea that behind every wave of chaos in the world, there has always been a hidden force from the West. There was a time during colonization when power didn't hide. It walked among people, exploiting them openly, enforcing control face to face. But that era has shifted. Now, it's a new form of colonization. Distant, invisible, yet far more powerful. Control is maintained through systems that shape everything. Law, media, politics, and law enforcement. And the grip is even tighter than before. The world has changed, but the methods of control have only become more sophisticated, more dangerous. And before anything else, you have to understand history and the system built on it. How a small group of greedy hands learn to pull the strings of an entire world. We then move into Oklahoma, where a young girl sits inside an office with her father. Her name is Sarah Rector, and her father is Joseph Rector. Both are African American. They are here today for a land allotment case. Sarah's ancestors were once enslaved by the Creek Indians. After the Civil War, in the 1866 treaty, the U.S. South government forced tribes like Creek Nation to free their slaves and recognize them as citizens of their tribe. Generations of pain were now returning as legal recognition on paper, but the real story was far from over. These freed slaves were known as freedmen. They had no idea that this land would not only change their fate, but also expose a dangerous truth buried beneath it. Sarah's father, Joseph, is part of the Creek freedman lineage. His ancestors endured brutal oppression. After the Civil War, they were granted freedom and officially recognized as citizens of the Creek Nation. That recognition placed their names into official records known as the Dawes Rolls, the list tied to land allocation. The suffering of their ancestors had now echoed through time, leading them right back to this land. Sarah's name appears on the list because she is legally recognized as a citizen of the Creek Nation. So when she is granted land, it is not a favor, it is delayed justice tied to generations of stolen lives. But when they finally see the land, it is nothing but dry, barren ground. Not a single crop grows, just weeds, dust, and insects. It looks worthless, something you would walk away from without a second thought. Everyone sees it as useless, but Sarah feels something different, something deeper. She is convinced this land is the key to changing everything. She believes there is a secret buried beneath it, something valuable, something hidden, something beneath that dry soil that could shift their entire future. Sarah begins to hear it, a faint sound of oil moving deep underground, something that could change her life forever. Around the same time, news begins spreading in the Osage Nation. Oil has been discovered, and entire towns are becoming wealthy overnight. Oil has transformed land into fortune, and fortune into obsession. Sarah tells her parents that there is oil beneath their land too, but they don't believe her. Without machines or geological surveys, it sounds impossible. And yet, something in her eyes makes them pause. There is conviction there, something they can't ignore. The next day, Sarah and her father go into town, a town controlled by white land brokers and oil prospectors, a place where black families are not welcome. They are treated as outsiders the moment they arrive, forced to keep their heads down just to move through the streets. Humiliation is everywhere, but so is hope. Her father visits multiple offices, trying to find someone willing to listen. Instead, he is pushed out, dismissed, ignored, simply because of who he is. Rejection after rejection, until something shifts in the air, because now, the door of fate is about to open. Joseph steps into the last remaining shop, Colonia Petroleum. He tells Sarah to wait outside. Thirst hits her, so she walks into a nearby cafe. The moment she enters, everything shifts. Conversations fade, eyes lock onto her. The entire room goes still, like she doesn't belong there at all. It's a whites-only cafe, and she can feel it instantly. The silence inside is heavy, and underneath it, something sharper. Hostility presses against her skin like invisible pressure. She asks the waitress for a pen. She is refused without hesitation. Sarah even offers to pay, but it changes nothing. Then a white man sitting nearby, Bert, speaks up and tells the waitress to give her water. He doesn't believe in separation between black and white people. Sarah tries to introduce herself, but before anything else can happen, the waitress forces her out of the cafe. Meanwhile, Joseph meets the owner of Panukalema Petroleum, a man named Earl, and tells him about the land. Disrespect was everywhere, but somewhere deep inside, a final spark of hope was still alive. Joseph tells Earl he wants him to drill on their land. They had no idea that a single decision was about to change their lives forever. Just then, Sarah returns. There's something about her presence. Educated, composed, sharp. She answers every question with quiet confidence. Earl is taken aback. He's used to seeing black people with their heads down, silent, cautious, but Sarah's eyes carry something different, a confidence that unsettles everyone in the room. Earl doesn't fully believe their claims, but he decides the land is worth a look. The next day, Earl arrives at the land with his team and agrees to begin drilling operations. Heavy machinery is brought in for oil extraction, a process that could take months, but Sarah raises a condition. Before anything begins, they must lease the land properly. She was not an ordinary girl. She understood the value of land and ownership too well to be taken lightly. Sarah insists on a formal contract, clearly stating drilling duration and royalty terms. Even at her age, she understands leases, ownership rights, and financial structure. She refuses to let anyone use her land for free. With every word she speaks, she proves she is no longer someone easy to deceive. Everything must be clear and official. Earl agrees to lease the land at $6 per acre for 6 months, along with a royalty agreement if oil is found. The deal is signed, and the next day, drilling begins on the field with massive equipment brought in by Penaclomina Petroleum. For nearly 3 months, drilling continues without pause. With each passing day, hope and anxiety grow side by side. But one day, when Sarah and Joseph arrive, they see something unexpected. Earl and his crew, shutting everything down and preparing to leave. Earl explains there is nothing beneath the land. No oil has been found. The words hit them hard. Their last hope collapses in silence. Earl leaves behind the heavy equipment because transporting it back would cost more than it's worth. Sometime later, Sarah sits outside her home when a white man's car pulls up. A new offer is made to Joseph. Someone wants to buy 160 acres of their land. He is willing to pay $6 per acre, a price far above what the barren land should ever be worth. And that offer carries the weight of something far deeper hidden beneath the surface. Joseph immediately senses something is off. Why would anyone suddenly offer that kind of money for this land? The man leaves without answering. When Joseph discusses it with his family, everything becomes clear to them. They realize Earl has likely already found oil on their land. He is hiding it so he can quietly buy the property cheap and take full control of the oil. And Joseph's suspicion turns out to be correct. Now they understand the oil beneath their land has already attracted dangerous attention. Greedy white landowners have done this kind of thing before. The family realizes Earl could go to any extent to take the land, so they bury the original land allotment papers in the soil inside their home. As long as they have those documents, Earl and his company cannot legally touch them. That night, they notice an unfamiliar car slowly approaching their house in the dark. Sensing danger, Sarah's parents take the children and hide in the bushes outside. In the deep darkness, death feels like it's quietly moving toward them. 2 men step out of the car. They are carrying rifles. These are gunmen sent by the oil company, ordered to steal the documents, no matter what it takes. Now, this is no longer just about land. It has become a fight for survival. The men break into the house, throwing things around while searching for the papers. But no matter how hard they look, they can't find them. Suddenly, Sarah's pet dog runs inside, and a gunshot echoes through the house. The family freezes in terror. The gunmen have killed their innocent dog. That single shot fills the entire house with fear and silence. Unable to find the papers, the men leave. Later, Earl confronts them angrily, asking why they fired the gun. He warns them that killing the dog could expose everything and ruin their plan. This confirms the family's fear. Earl is behind it all, and now their lives are in serious danger. The next morning, the family is shaken and terrified. Sarah's mother says they cannot risk their lives over land. They decide to give the land back to Earl. Even Sarah agrees. Fear has grown so strong that survival now matters more than ownership. Later, Sarah goes out searching for her dog and ends up near an oil camp. It's a rough settlement where workers, laborers, and gamblers live in small makeshift shelters. Even in that broken place, fate is still quietly moving in the background. There, she meets Bert again, the same man from the cafe, sitting with his friend Max. Sarah tells them that oil was found on her land, but they don't believe her. They think she is mistaken. They have no idea that the truth she is speaking about will change everything. Sarah explains everything, drilling, Earl's deception, and what really happened. But when they still don't believe her, she walks away disappointed. Bert and Mac feel guilty and stop her. They decide to go check the land themselves. When they arrive, they see Earl's abandoned drilling rig still standing there. Without hesitation, they begin drilling on their own and slowly build a bond with Sarah's family. Gradually, things begin to shift, and for the first time, they feel like they have real support. But then, Earl's men return. Everyone immediately goes on alert. The gunmen threaten them, ordering them to pack up and leave the land. But Sarah looks them straight in the eye and refuses. She says the land belongs to her, and she is not leaving. Earl steps forward and shows a contract, claiming ownership. He has secretly altered the expiration date, but Sarah instantly catches the fraud. Now she is no longer afraid, because she knows the truth is on her side. Earl becomes furious. A standoff breaks out, and one of Bert's allies pulls a gun, forcing Earl to step back. Before leaving, Earl threatens them, saying their bodies will be buried right there on that land. It is a clear reminder of how far greed can push a man into pure darkness. While drilling continues, the equipment suddenly gets stuck. Hope begins to fade again, because without heavy machinery, further drilling becomes nearly impossible. Max suggests a dangerous option, using underground dynamite. The next day, Bert and Mac go to the Pure Oil office in town to test the crude oil quality. Outside, Bert meets Kate, a woman he already knows. Inside the lab, the technician checks the sample and delivers the verdict. The oil quality is poor, and further drilling would be pointless. They step outside in silence, defeated. This feels like the beginning of their dreams falling apart, but the real truth is still waiting underground. But then Bert notices something off. The man is about to hand their oil sample over to Ed. Bert stops him and forces the truth out. That's when it comes out. Their oil quality is actually average. Bert takes the sample back and heads to another town to run the test again. Now, slowly, the layers of a much bigger game start to unfold. A game that had been hidden from them the entire time. The tester finally confirms it. This is top-grade oil, and this land could be one of the richest oil fields in all of Oklahoma. Bert and Mac are overjoyed. For the first time, they feel like their lives might actually change. But the machinery is broken, and drilling can't continue. They need money for new equipment. Bert goes to the bank for a loan but is flatly rejected. With no options left, he meets Kate and asks for money in exchange for a partnership in the oil field. The wealth was right under their feet, but the entire world seemed determined to keep it buried. Kate agrees. Bert returns with new equipment, but now the whole town knows he's helping a black woman. Many white locals turn against him, and just like that, Bert is no longer fighting for oil alone. He's fighting for humanity. When he arrives at Sarah's home, police are already there. They deliver disturbing news. 2 Native American children were brutally killed last night in Creek Nation territory. It's being linked to oil mafia violence. People completely consumed by greed and power, leaving bodies behind in their wake. The police came only to warn Sarah's family, because news of oil on their land has spread everywhere. Now things have reached a point where not just land, but human lives are being traded like currency. The next morning, Bert tries running the new machine again. It shuts down almost immediately. Another failure. Then Earl arrives, with his men and a legal counselor. The lawyer presents a court order stating Sarah must return all equipment to Earl. Earl warns Bert that legal battles can drag on for years, and by then, it might be too late. Worse, they could lose their lives in the process. He offers Bert a deal, become Sarah's legal guardian under state law, and sell him the land. Now Earl is using the law itself to manipulate control, trust, and desperation. All Bert has to do is get Sarah's signature. In return, he would receive a huge share of the profits. And against expectations, Bert agrees. The same man Sarah trusted the most is now standing on the other side. At that time, a US South law allowed black and Native Americans to be assigned white guardians to manage their money and property, based on the claim that they couldn't handle wealth themselves. In reality, this system became a legal weapon. Many guardians exploited it, poisoned trust, and took over entire oil fields. A system designed under law became one of the most effective tools of exploitation. When Mac learns about Bert's plan, he tries to stop him in anger, but Bert insists there is no other way. The next day, Sarah's dog, thought to have been killed, returns. The bullet had only grazed it, leaving it alive, but by then, the damage had already been done. Bert uses Sarah's trust and gets her to sign the guardianship papers. She has no idea that the choice she just made will change everything. The following day, they appear in court to legally confirm the arrangement. Sarah tells the judge she willingly appointed Bert because she trusts him, but a woman named Miss Bernard is present in the courtroom, and she doesn't trust Bert at all. Something about this case feels wrong to her, like she can already sense where this story is heading. Miss Bernard speaks with Sarah's family and manages to take back the guardianship papers from Bert. Later, Bert meets Earl to finalize the land deal, and that's when something inside him starts to break. He realizes what he was about to do, and what it would truly cost. Meanwhile, on his way to Sarah's house, Mac notices Earl's men moving in. They are heading there with violent intent. Mac tries to stop them, but they open fire, and he is killed on the spot. The gunshot echoes through the air. Sarah's parents quickly send children to safety and return fire, forcing the attackers to retreat. Shortly after, Bert arrives searching for Mac, only to find his body. The sight shatters him completely. At the same time, Miss Bernard confirms something crucial. Earl cannot legally take the land unless Sarah herself signs it. Mac's death awakens something inside Bert, a part of him that still had conscience, still had humanity. He decides he will go to court the next day and cancel the guardianship entirely, appointing Miss Bernard instead. The next morning, law enforcement from Creek Nation arrests Earl's men. In court, Miss Bernard is officially appointed as the legal guardian, and Bert, using Mac's final idea, installs underground dynamite beneath the land. Now this is no longer just about oil extraction. It has become the final stand for justice. Then Earl arrives with his armed men, ready to take control by force. But before anything can escalate, Bert triggers the dynamite. A massive explosion shakes the ground. The earth tears open, and a powerful surge of oil erupts into the sky, like a living force breaking free after years of silence. What had been buried for generations finally reveals itself in one violent release. Earl's entire plan collapses instantly. He is arrested for fraud and violent crimes. Justice finally catches up with him. Sarah and her family stand in silence. Then slowly, joy takes over. After everything they endured, they finally have what was rightfully theirs. A few days later, Bert prepares to leave town for good. Sarah meets him one last time. They share a quiet moment and embrace before saying goodbye. Their paths separate here, but what they went through will never leave them. Crude oil was never just fuel in America. It became the backbone of power, influence, and economy. Even today, entire systems are built on it, and history carries the weight of everything done to protect that power. And with that, the story comes to an end. Sarah saved the land, but what she saw in people changed her forever. Once you've looked that deep into greed, fear, and truth, you don't unsee it. Subscribe to HOPKART PARU if you're drawn to dark, intense stories that leave a mark long after they end, because some stories don't finish when the screen goes black, they begin there.